Well, as we just saw, and as we know all too well, people in the world we're in change a lot. As we grow and develop, life around us changes, and it feels like we're constantly adapting. Never has our lives changed so much as this year. Coronavirus hit our world, and suddenly our daily routines, our ways of relating with people, and even our hobbies have changed dramatically. But today I want to remind you, our God has never changed. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Because God is infinitely good, because he is set apart from his creation, because he knows all things, he doesn't change. If you have a perfect recipe, changing it would only make it worse. God is already perfect, so he cannot change. In James, it describes God as the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Let's have a look at God's unchanging nature in the Bible. In Genesis chapter 12, God makes a promise to Abram that even though his wife couldn't have children, he would have numerous descendants who would live in a promised land and be blessed. Well, sure enough, Abram had a son, and his son had sons, and those sons had sons. But they weren't in the promised land. In fact, they were in Egypt as slaves. So God brought them out with many miraculous plagues, and through a series of events, they ended up conquering the promised land. God hadn't forgotten his promise, because he never changes. But these people, the Israelites, weren't thankful to God for keeping his promises. In fact, they rejected him over and over and over again. They turned to other gods, they lived their own way, they changed. God handed them over to their enemies time and again, and every time they'd apologize, but then turn away from God again. Why did God not just reject them completely? Well, we see in Malachi, the last book of the Old Testament, something amazing. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, God says, "I, the Lord, do not change. So you, the descendants of Jacob, are not destroyed." You see, the reason God was faithful, even though the people rejected him, is because he is unchanging. When he makes a decision, he sticks with it according to his perfect plan. He never changes his mind. When he makes a promise, he never forgets it. In Jesus, God has promised us salvation. He's promised us a future with him and an eternal inheritance in heaven. And because God never changes, we can be 100% sure he will keep these promises. Have a look at Hebrews chapter 6, verses 17 and 19. It says, "Because God wanted to make the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear to the heirs of what was promised, which is us, he confirmed it with an oath. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure." In a world that tosses us around like little boats on the ocean, we have an anchor that we can rely on to keep us safe. And that anchor is the hope that God will always keep his promises, because our eternally good and faithful God will never change. It might feel like your world is crumbling around you, that everything is moving too fast. But even when friends change and don't like you anymore, when siblings move away, when your pet starts to get old and sick, we can take comfort in the fact that our God will never change. Or when you feel faithless, doubtful, or forget to think about God for a week, we can take comfort in the fact that our God will never change. He is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and he will always love you. That will never change.